it is, when government makes decisions for you, whether it's because government thinks they're smarter than you, or people in government think they're more moral than you, watch out. That's when your freedom is disappearing. Since we agree on the policy, that that's an outrageous policy, let me comment on the politics. These issues of contraception and so forth, are being stirred up by the Democrats for political reasons. Frankly, fellow Republicans, when we are talking about these issues, we are giving votes to the Democrats. We should be talking not about houses with two mommies, not about these other things, but about houses with 0 jobs. We should be talking about how the policies of this administration and their friends in Congress are making us poorer and less free. And those are the things that we need to be focusing on. And that's how we'll win the White House, Congress, Senate, and all the other races that are going to be on the ballot.
Okay. What would you do about Social Security? Would you abolish it, phase it out, continue it, replace it with something better, and how would you fund it?
Is it, am I
You're
right?
on first, yeah.
Okay. Well, if Congressman Polis would take early retirement, we could advance the age just for him. Not that he needs the money. The thing about Social Security, and actually this applies to Medicare too, let's look about why this is in trouble. When it was passed, a person who was 65 would on average live 2 more years. So you might contribute for 30 or 40 years and collect benefits for 2 years. Now a person who's 65, if you're a man, you expect to live to 85, and if you're a woman, you expect to live to 87. So we've got, thanks to our long expanding lifespans in the United States, actually worldwide, we have a case now where you might contribute for 40 years and collect benefits for 20 or 25 years, and that's fundamentally why, that and demographic shifts are why this has become so upside down. This program is a program that we need to look at moving that balance over time. A promise that is not sustainable is a promise without honor, and we need to restructure the program so that promises can be kept. For current retirees or people near retirement, we need to find a way of maintaining the current program. But for younger Americans, I'm 48. I can certainly plan a longer period till my eligibility for Social Security and other programs for older Americans. People younger than I, likewise. So we need to be looking at the age. There are a number of other tweaks. We need to look at how the cost of livings are done and so forth. But the other thing is, for much younger Americans, we need to get them off of the government system. We need to have a way that becomes a hybrid and ultimately a purely private property system where a person owns as property their own retirement, and there can be guarantees, there can be a safety net, but this needs to be a matter of a property right, not a fiat promise or a promise subject to fiat by government and future administrations. You didn't give me enough time to answer the finances question, but
There's always the tyranny of time on these questions. You're asking the big questions of life to be.
and he is a tough moderator, isn't he?
That's right. Social Security, like all government, must live within its means. It has to, for us to be able to sustain that. Back in 2005, I was the member of the Colorado legislature that actually introduced the measure encouraging the more of the private ownership of one's Social Security system. That politically went down in flames at the national level, so we didn't make much progress in encouraging at the state level, but I'm right behind trying to find the solutions that will work. The primary point is Social Security, like all of government, must live within its means. I believe that one of the problems we have with Social Security is when they pretty much just devoured it by the rest of the federal government. And now it's on this very unrealistic path of we'll just keep paying and doesn't matter what the receipts are, we're just going to try to sustain it. This is as crazy as why is Greece in problems? Well, because they've got these type of systems that are completely unsustainable. There have to be some long-term adjustments. There has to be some realistic plan so that it can be maintained through the decades, because it's a contract that the federal government has literally forced every American into. The federal government must live up to that, and that's my final point is, we should not jeopardize those who are dependent upon Social Security today, and I never want to see any political rhetoric that tries to pin on those of us who know we have to fix it long-term, that somehow we're going to jeopardize things today. I'm a firm supporter of supporting those that are dependent upon it today, but we've got to fix it for the future.
I've consolidated some questions because of duplication of subjects, so I'm starting to run low. If y'all want to give me a couple more, still have some cards out here if you want one pen, so you know if you need a pen here. All right. When a candidate is weak, he often will focus on negative attacks instead of focusing on issues. Will you pledge to refrain from negative attacks against your opponent?
Yes, I have in the primary, and I will in the general election pledge to be accurate but tough. But I believe Republicans need to stand together and to understand that our real target is the guy in the general election, and that's been my policy for every election, and that's what I've held to and pledged to here and will continue to do.
I will kick Jared Polis's butt. I will not pledge not to go negative. I will beat the stuffing out of them from the primary election day till November 6th. So that is a pledge to be, we're not gonna beat this guy without showing voters in the 2nd Congressional District what's wrong with him. This is a guy who was an inside trader and used his position in Congress to enrich himself. I will make sure that every voter in the 2nd Congressional District understands that by November 6th. In terms of, some people call it negative advertising, some people call it contrast advertising. I think that it's perfectly appropriate for a candidate to explain things about his opponents and not just about himself, not just talk about himself, and let voters decide if that is a constructive and useful piece of information. I have done some advertising that focuses on aspects of Kevin's record, and I will let the recipients of that advertising say, if they think I'm acting appropriately, they can say, boy, that Eric, he's a jerk, he shouldn't be a congressman. They can come to that conclusion, but others can say, those are useful points of information, and those help me make my decision. So I think of this, in a primary election, I think what you need to do is help the voters and most voters don't go to Republican breakfast and get to meet candidates face to face. Most voters are not as well informed and as involved as all of you are. So I think it actually is a responsibility to help voters understand those differences.
Okay. This question has to do with Colorado water law. It talks about, what do you know about people in particular of petitions being circulated to eviscerate 100 years of Colorado water law, and what are you doing to stop it? I'm not sure. Is that yours, Mel?
Yeah, it is. You're familiar with the two petitions that are going around that would basically overturn everything, 100 years of water law.
I haven't read the petitions and I don't know about them in details. They're state issues.
I'll get back to you.
But from what I've heard, these are not things that I would be in favor of. Go ahead.
Colorado water law is very well established, most unique as well, and it needs to be maintained and defended. Sometimes individuals don't like exactly how it works out. There's a gentleman a couple of miles west of us here in Wellington who's been battling with, who has an incredible water resource that he has not been able to get full utilization